still waiting for a couple of commissioners, but let's go ahead and call the order and get the process started. Paula, would you like to do roll call?
Matt Guillory.
Here.
Jorge Charnico.
Here.
Dylan Bradway.
Here.
Betsy Brunstetter.
Here.
Donna Cervantes. Tyler Holmes.
Here.
Lee Peoples.
Here.
Ben Sellers. And James Barnum.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Okay. We don't have a very heavy docket today, but as some of you will notice, we have several new commission members. So we're going to kind of reorder the agenda a little bit and start off by introducing some of the new commission members. Lee Peoples, James Varnum, Dylan Bradway, and Tyler Holmes. And that also means that we are losing 4 of our longtime commission members. So we're going to jump to item number 7, other business on the agenda, and thank the commission members who are rotating off right now, and we have some resolutions that we will be presenting to them. These are going to be read into the record. To give a little variety, we will have some of the different commission members read those. Jorge, would you like to do the first one? I don't think it.
So this is a resolution of the Urban Design Commission of the City of Oklahoma City acknowledging Brian Fitzsimmons for his valuable service and dedication to the Urban Design Commission. Whereas Brian Fitzsimmons has faithfully served the citizens of Oklahoma City as a member of the Urban Design Commission from January 2008 to March 2016. And whereas the Commission has benefited greatly from the extent and the depth of Brian Fitzsimmons' knowledge and experience in development standards and architecture. And whereas Brian Fitzsimmons has contributed to the Commission through his insightful approach, attention to detail, and consideration of the facts in his decision-making. And whereas Brian Fitzsimmons has demonstrated uncommon dedication to the Commission through his considerable respect in the observance of the applicable standards and guidelines in consideration of the projects presented to the Commission, and whereas Brian Fitzsimmons' participation in the review of proposals presented to the Commission has been characterized by a constant and sincere dedication to the promotion of sustained long-term enhancement and design excellence in the design districts covered by the Commission, with the particular emphasis on the Cottage District. And whereas Brian Fitzsimmons has consistently treated applicants, citizens, fellow commissioners, and the staff with respect and courtesy. And whereas Brian Fitzsimmons' dedication, determination, and collaborative spirit have served the community well in resolving conflicts and providing applicants with sound aesthetic and creative advice. And whereas the fulfillment of Brian Fitzsimmons' responsibilities on the Commission was marked by a sincere dedication and abiding concern for the well-being of the community and the overall betterment of the urban design districts. Now, therefore, it is resolved that the Urban Design Commission hereby respectfully commends Brian Fitzsimmons for his outstanding years of service to the Urban Design Commission of the City of Oklahoma City, adopted by the Urban Design Commission of the City of Oklahoma City on this 23rd day of March 2016.
Thank you. Can we have a motion to adopt this resolution?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
We have a motion by Betsy, and I didn't see who seconded.
Me.
Second by Peoples. And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes. Thank you. Betsy, would you like to? Would you like to read the next one, Betsy?
Sure. This is a resolution of the Urban Design Commission of the City of Oklahoma City acknowledging George McQuistion for his valuable service and dedication to the Urban Design Commission. I'd love to tell a little story, but I won't, okay? Whereas George McQuistion has faithfully served the citizens of Oklahoma City as a member of the Urban Design Commission from May 2007 to March 2016. And whereas the Commission has benefited greatly from George McQuistion's prudent and adept leadership, as well as the breadth of his knowledge and experience that he has judiciously applied to the design review process. And whereas George McQuistion has contributed to the Commission through his astute insights, attention to detail, and consideration of the facts in his decision-making. And whereas George McQuistion has demonstrated uncommon dedication to the Commission through his continual regard and faithful observance of the applicable standards and guidelines in consideration of projects presented to the Commission. And whereas George McQuistion's participation in the review of proposals presented to the Commission has been characterized by a steadfast dedication and genuine interest in the successful long-term revitalization of the design districts governed by the Commission through the fair and equitable implementation of the code. He does that. And whereas George McQuistion has consistently treated applicants, citizens, and fellow commissioners and staff with respect and courtesy, and whereas George McQuistion's rational and reasonable approach combined with his cooperative spirit have served the community well in resolving conflicts and providing applicants with sound aesthetic and creative advice, and whereas the fulfillment of George McQuistion's responsibilities on the Commission was achieved with admirable devotion to the well-being of the community and the overall betterment of all the urban design districts. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Urban Design Commission hereby respectfully, one second. Just let it go. Okay. Respectfully commends George McQuistion for his outstanding years of service to the Urban Design Commission and the City of Oklahoma City. Adopted by the Urban Design Commission of the City of Oklahoma City on this 23rd day of March 2016. Thank you, George.
Sorry. It's not proper for me to make a motion to approve this, so somebody else is going to have to, but thank you, George, especially for helping me kind of transition into this role that you've been filling for years. Do I have a motion to adopt this resolution?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Motion from Donna, second from Betsy. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. And Donna, I'm going to put you on the spot. I didn't have a chance to talk to you beforehand, but would you be willing to read the next one for us?
It'd be my pleasure. Do you want the whole introduction?
Yeah, we need to read the whole thing.
A resolution of the Urban Design Commission of the City of Oklahoma City acknowledging Jeff Struble for his valuable service and dedication to the Urban Design Commission. Whereas Jeff Struble has faithfully served the citizens of Oklahoma City as a member of the Urban Design Commission from July 2007 to March 2016. And whereas the Commission has benefited greatly from the breadth of Jeff Struble's knowledge and experience in the development and construction industries. And whereas Jeff Struble has contributed to the commission through his attention to detail, perceptive insights, and consideration of the facts in his decision-making. And whereas Jeff Struble has exhibited unusual dedication to the commission through his fundamental regard for the applicable standards and guidelines in consideration of projects presented to the commission. And whereas Jeff Struble's participation in the review of proposals presented to the commission has been characterized by a persistent commitment to promotion of the successful long-term revitalization of the design districts covered by the commission, with particular devotion to the Plaza District. And whereas Jeff Struble has consistently treated applicants, citizens, fellow commissioners, and staff with respect and courtesy. And whereas Jeff Struble's considerate nature and collaborative spirit have served the community well in resolving conflicts and providing applicants with sound aesthetic and creative advice. And whereas the fulfillment of Jeff Struble's responsibilities on the commission was achieved with a definitive commitment to the well-being of the community and the overall betterment of all the design districts. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Urban Design Commission hereby respectfully commends Jeff Struble for his outstanding years of service to the Urban Design Commission of the City of Oklahoma City, adopted by the Urban Design Commission of the City of Oklahoma City on this 23rd day of March 2016.
Thank you, Donna. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Again, motion by Betsy and second by Dylan. And we have Jeff. I don't see Jeff here yet, but Jeff has been a great commissioner for a long time. We have one left. Lisa? Oh, sorry, I forgot to vote. All in favor of the resolution?
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution passes. Lisa, would you like to do the last one?
Yes, I will. A resolution of the Urban Design Commission of the City of Oklahoma City acknowledging John Robison for his valuable service and dedication to the Urban Design Commission. Whereas John Robison has faithfully served the citizens of Oklahoma City as a member of the Urban Design Commission from June 2010 to March 2016, and whereas the Commission has benefited greatly from John Robison's broad and extensive knowledge and experience in architectural design and planning, and whereas John Robison has contributed to the Commission through his adept insights, attention to detail, and consideration of the facts in his decision-making, and whereas John Robison has demonstrated exceptional dedication to the Commission through his constant regard and dedication to the appropriate implementation of the applicable standards and guidelines in consideration of projects presented to the Commission, and whereas John Robison's participation in the review of proposals presented to the Commission has been characterized by a steadfast dedication to the successful long-term revitalization and design excellence in the design districts governed by the Commission, with a specific emphasis on architectural integrity within the Paseo District. And whereas John Robison has consistently treated applicants, citizens, fellow commissioners, and staff with respect and courtesy, and whereas John Robison's purposeful nature and collaborative spirit have served the community well in resolving conflicts and providing applicants with sound aesthetic and creative direction, and whereas the fulfillment of John Robison's responsibilities on the Commission was conspicuous in its forthright and resolute dedication to the well-being of the community and the overall betterment of all the urban design districts. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Urban Design Commission hereby respectfully commends John Robison for his outstanding years of service to the Urban Design Commission of the City of Oklahoma City. Adopted by the Urban Design Commission of the City of Oklahoma City on this 23rd day of March, 2016.
Thank you. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Betsy again, second?
Second.
Dylan, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. The motion passes. All four of these commissioners have served for a very long time on this board, so collectively, I'd like to say thank you to all of you for the service to the city and to the different neighborhoods that you represent. Thank you.
Can I thank them? I didn't get to serve with you very long, but I really appreciated what I was able to learn the time we were together, so thank you, and hope our paths continue to cross.
Anybody else have anything they want to add? Paula, we are missing one signature. If you want to, we'll deal with that later? Okay, thank you. Okay, moving back to our current agenda. Before we do, once again, as we're saying goodbye to four of our commissioners, we're saying hello to Dylan Bradway, Tyler Holmes, Lee Peoples, and James Varnum. So with that being said, let's get back to our regularly scheduled docket here, which we are to the approval of minutes. Do I have a motion?
I move that we approve the minutes.
Motion by Betsy. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Donna. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The minutes are approved. We have no withdrawn cases, we have no cases for continuance requests, and we have no consent docket, so we are moving directly to the cases for individual consideration.
Yes, the first item on your agenda under items for individual consideration is a home at 917 Northwest 8th Street. This item was on your agenda at the last meeting, you may recall. And you may also recall the extensive discussions that were had with respect to front-facing garage doors and how it impacted and affected the two projects to the east of this site. And you may also recall that when this project was presented to you at the last meeting, it also had a front-facing garage door. However, with the fact that this is a 50-foot wide lot, there was, I guess, a consensus that there was an opportunity here to rectify that front-facing garage on this particular project, whereas in the 25-foot lots to the east, there was not. And as a result, the applicant has come back to the commission with a revised design that was prepared and submitted to us with lightning speed, and it does have a completely reconfigured site plan with a driveway down the east side of the site leading to a garage that is in the rear of the house, so that the front-facing garage door no longer is front-facing on 8th Street. If it were not for the use of the redwood, this project probably would have been on the consent calendar, but we have recommended approval of the project and prepared to respond to any questions the commission may have.
Thank you. Thank you, Michael. Do we have the applicant prepared to speak or someone representing the applicant? Thank you. Can you sign in, please, and introduce yourself? While you're signing in, I will say thank you for both your willingness last month to do the continuance and applaud you for how quickly you were able to turn this around.
Thank you. Okay.
My name is Elisa Weatherman. I am an architect, and I am representing Omar Khalil, the owner. I reside in Edmond, Oklahoma, and I'm here to answer any questions you have about the property and its design.
All right, so about half of us up here saw an application last month, and this one is dramatically different. As Michael said, the major difference is a complete redesign to put the garage in the back instead of a front-facing garage. Do we have any questions from commission members?
I'll just make a comment. I really like the front of your house.
Thank you.
I think it does everything that we want this to do for pedestrians and reaching out to create a more cohesive neighborhood.
I listened last time. Thank you.
Okay, so it's good to hear that long discussion last time, even though it wasn't about your project, was not done in vain. Any questions, comments from commission members?
I have concerns about the stucco it's addressed in your document. I think the ASTM standard is a constructability issue where I think the intent, as I interpret it from this commission, is more of a design aesthetic of the texture that the additional reveals or joints would provide. So, I mean, is that...
So you want more reveals or you want less reveals? Because what's out there being built today doesn't have any. I mean, on a few that I noticed, I was like, wow, they have no construction joints whatsoever. So are you looking for more or less?
I think it would be valuable to have more because it would add it to the intricacy of details that you see throughout the district. So I'm not using any sort of precedent that's out there. I'm just, as I look at the drawings, it's just a standalone comment. Because it looks like it's at least a 12 by 12.
On the one side, yes, that is correct. The rest of the house, because there is such definition and change in materials, we get more of a pattern.
Yeah, you definitely do. And I agree with what Betsy's saying. I think it looks nice. That was just kind of my only comment.
Well, just to follow up what George said, oh, sorry, your name is Jorge, said that the house that is built without, or the houses that are built without any joints didn't actually, I think those were both administrative approvals. Am I correct?
I don't think there's any houses in Cottage that are administrative.
The duplex on 8th Street?
No.
It's,
No?
from my experience with commission comments, somebody always comments for more control joints on the stucco. So I wonder if these other examples, if they were required to put them in, but they didn't.
Right,
Yeah, that's very possible.
Well, and I think they also slipped past, I know which houses you're talking about.
So I was just following the guidelines and the standards, and I like the pattern, we like the pattern, so I'm going to still fight for it unless you all say no.
We have suggested to that same applicant on a different house that it would make a more permanent installation to have the required number of, and I don't know if this is, it's like 200 square feet or something like that, or what is it?
Well, they reference the ASTM standard. So as far as, it's 144 square feet, but
If I
it's
were to add a
constructability.
line, 2 lines in the 12-foot going horizontally, would that appease you on that side elevation? Would that make it more of a pattern, more something going on, more decorative?
Adding horizontal lines.
Right, at the 12-foot, so we would get more of the horizontal, you get more rectangular, long rectangular shapes on that. As you can see on the front and the back, I mean, it's just kind of, they're smaller, and but I would be more than willing to add a couple horizontal ones. Does that make sense?
So if you did that, would it then be compliant? Is that,
No, it would not meet what your 3x5, but it definitely meets the plaster standards of, you know, being, I mean, this meets the standards, but if you want to see more lines, I would say adding a couple horizontal there would not, I think it would still be pleasing and not just so many, as a 3x5 pattern gives you.
Well, one of the things we've suggested in the past is just to help your cracking be
Sure.
limited, like
Yeah.
the corners of your windows, which you've done on your north elevation, but not
Correct.
on...
And I have done it on all corners and all floors. So the 2-foot where the trusses would be, I have one at the ceiling, at the plate line, and the plate line. So I have it horizontally where we would have that, and I also have it at every single window, so it gives you one.
And the discussions about this in the past, if my memory serves me correctly, have mostly been around wear and tear and longevity of the product. So it's not necessarily an aesthetic thing as much as wanting to make sure it's going to be a durable, long-lasting application.
I think if that's the case, then the ASTM standard is appropriate to reference, and that would negate my comment. I just interpreted the comment more as, you know, there's a certain scale that you have in these districts.
And that's been my interpretation of the past discussions. Betsy, do you recall those differently?
Right. Sorry, right.
Okay. So with that being said, does that change your feelings on?
Well, it's just a comment, so I guess it stands. I'm not requesting anything, it's just an observation.
Okay. Betsy, do you have anything more?
No, I would suggest that you have flexibility in looking at the control joints, because they can be an aesthetic thing as well as a durability thing, so.
I agree, and I have them on my house, and I believe they do add something to design. And I liked mine. But
If you're offering to add more, I think that's great. But
I would add.
I don't know that I
would
can
add
sit here and tell you to
go,
add more.
But to give you some definition there, so we can.
Okay. So if that's something you're willing to add, is that something that we would like to see as a commission? Is that?
So it's the addition of
Horizontal lines, 2 horizontal lines to make them a 6-foot by 12-foot rectangle on the west side. That
We
would
can address that in
What
the
I would-
motion when the time comes.
I have like one comment. Another way this could be done potentially is, so that's the east facade. Yeah, no, the west elevation.
Correct.
Is there a way, like, I mean, there aren't very many windows on that side of the building.
It's
Is-
because a person to the west built a balcony and created a lovely 1-hour wall for me. So I'm limiting my 1-hour construction and windows and such.
Gotcha. Okay. That was just, I want to make a comment. Okay.
And I'm sorry, I didn't quite hear what you said. What's to the west that's preventing windows?
Oh, a new house that's existing has added a balcony coming towards our property, which is creating a little rated partition.
Okay.
So we scooted the house over so that we could get the driveway in and have some windows on the east side because of those homes.
Okay. Michael, you talked about the redwood. Does anyone have questions about the redwood or comments? It's been fairly common to have small-scale wood accents like this in that district, so that's not, I know it's not exactly in line, but it is, it has been fairly commonly approved. All right, if there's not anything more, do we have a motion?
I move to approve the application on the basis that the project meets the regulations and guidelines of the Downtown Design Review District zoning ordinance as referenced in Section C and D of the staff report, with the caveat that a few more control joints may be added
To the west elevation.
to the west elevation. Is that the only elevation?
Do you need those additions viewed by staff, or are you fine with?
No, I think that she'll do just fine.
Does that sound good to you, Michael? Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion by Betsy, second by Donna. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Motion passes. Thank you. Thank you for your patience last month also. And moving on to item B.
This item is a proposal to renovate and revise much of the architectural exterior of the building that is the park building at Red Enders Park, which is sits pretty much center of the Cottage District. We've kind of outlined a variety of concerns with respect to the proposal for you, and then we have also explained in detail some of the objectives that the applicant's trying to achieve with the proposed renovations. And to a certain extent, they do come into a little bit of conflict, but we have recommended approval of the project. Essentially, the clear-story windows that are at the angle at the second level of the building have been painted over for, as far as we can tell, somewhat more than 20 years. And the reason they were painted over is because it's creating a lot of glare issues on the interior of the gymnasium, and that was causing problems for people playing basketball and conducting other activities inside the gymnasium. So that was done quite some time ago. But since then, there have been a variety of issues that have confronted the building owner with respect to energy efficiency, vandalism, damage to the glass, and so on and so forth. As a consequence, they are doing some interior work that's not under the purview of the commission, but it does address the glare issue by building an interior wall that sits behind the glazed area that you see in the photos of the building. In addition to that, to eliminate the somewhat deprecated appearance of the glass that's painted white, they're proposing to cover the glass with the glass left in place with metal paneling, which we have a sample of for you to look at, and the applicant will pass that around when they are up and making their presentation to the commission. We deliberated over this quite some time. We have some concerns about what's being proposed, but in the end, we are recommending approval to the commission, and we're prepared to respond to any questions the commission may have.
All right. Is the applicant here, or someone representing the applicant, to speak to this? Can you?
My name's Bob Howard. I'm an architect here in Oklahoma City.
Can you sign in also, please?
Okay. We are representing, we have Melinda Millen, that is with the Parks Department. We are, if you could run through the pictures, then I'll back up for a minute and we'll try to go back to a couple of the pictures. I want to give you a minute just to kind of refresh in your mind what is there and what we're proposing. Yeah, now that's a good shot there. On one of your sheets, I think it might be your third sheet, one after this, please. Keep going then. There you go. If you compare that That is our rendering with the metal panel. And then if you compare that to what was shown earlier of the existing, I think you would be hard-pressed to say there was really much difference. The only difference is what you're seeing in the original is that, as Michael said, that's a window that's been painted over. In between the windows is what's called a structural stiffener. We're leaving that. As you go back to the, let's go back to the original. That stiffener is also painted a green color. What we would recommend is going ahead and painting that where it blended in with the metal panel so we had a cleaner look, something that had a better look to it in appearance. We think it would give it a little more modern look. The reason we're putting the wall up, as Michael said, as we've indicated, is to go ahead and cut out the glare. The reason we're putting the metal panel on the front of the, we're leaving the window and the window frame in place. It's an economical solution to achieving a desired end result of less maintenance, a better looking product, one when you get up to it you don't think the building is in any way deteriorating. So, you know, if we went back and tried to put a cow wall or any other kind of glass system on this, you would be able to cut down the glare. The only thing that would do, though, is cut the glare, and when you play basketball, you really don't want a contrast of a light and a dark area. A cow wall system is one that diffuses the light, and so when you play, and that's why you don't see major sports arenas, gyms, do that these days. They found it's not suitable to the sport. So with that in mind, and the other thing is to even do that, as Betsy would agree with me, is very cost prohibitive to go with a cow wall system. So we felt like this was just the most economical approach to the building, something that keeps pretty much the look intact. I will say that I was surprised to see that this would come before you all. We met with, I wish Brian had stayed, we met with Brian about, I think it was October. By that, he invited Melinda with the parks, Doug Kepper, who is the director, myself. They had the Midtown Developers or Midtown Association. They were looking at doing many great things over at the park. Now, I will say that, and let me back up a minute. We're reading into this whether it's significant or historical. When Brian and them made their first presentation of a proposal, it actually tore down the building. That's why we did not feel it had any historical or significant basis. If it did, then we would agree we need to comply with that. But to me, that's a group that has a vested interest. They know the area, and they were willing to tear it down. So I think we're kind of getting ahead of ourselves or being misled a little bit about really what is significant or historical. I don't believe that this building, or in their eyes, met that qualification either. All we're trying to do simply is just come back, correct a maintenance issue, something economical. Fortunately, you know, if we're talking about how it looks and those kind of things, well, it looks pretty similar. So with that, I would just offer to you, you know, I hear that everybody gets committed who represents the commission on the facts. Well, the facts do not state that it's significant. It does not state it's historical. So we should not be required in any sense to comply with something that does not, is not something the building meets at this point. So with that said, I'll take any questions.
I'll kind of start us off here. I've heard a few different things in terms of needs that need to be addressed. One being the glare, which seems to not be part of this exterior. That's going to be addressed by the interior wall, correct?
Well, actually, That will be addressed by the interior wall. It could be addressed standalone by the interior wall.
Okay.
Yes, it could.
Another issue is obviously budget, which it always is, and then another issue was the energy efficiency. Can you talk a little bit about how this will address any of the energy efficiency issues?
Yeah, well, one thing right now, the glass system that there is single pane, the frame's deteriorating, the glass is broken. You would have to go back. They've also replaced a lot of the panels with FRP panels, so you're getting two different looks, and that in itself is not efficient. The barrier we're providing is with the stud wall. We also have insulation in the wall. You'll create a cavity. Without the glass, if it's broken and you have another barrier here, it's the same principle of insulated glass. If you have two panes of glass, you get insulation better. Well, with the glass that's broken in this, the cavity would not be as well insulated. So if you put the panel over it, you do get a tighter fit, a tighter barrier, but we're not depending on that. But just to answer your question, it does give you a better efficiency but we're not depending on that. The mechanical system could handle it either way.
Do we have any questions from commissioners on type of material used or applications?
Okay, I'm so talky. I would like to see the picture of the existing, I'm sorry, Paula, but, oh, Michael's driving it? Okay, there. Can you zoom in on that? And and as Michael is zooming, I will tell you, I understand the financial concern. What are the ribs that we see on?
I think that's the intermediate framing for the glass, Betsy.
Even though this may not be considered valuable to other people, and some people might want to tear it down. Basically, the reason you're here is that you're wanting to make a change. And the concern I have is that there's a textural change. And typically, the type of material that you're proposing to put on here is kind of a cheap material. That's what you see in metal, cheap metal buildings and stuff like that. I understand the need to do it, but I was wondering if you investigated any other materials, not CalWall, because you were mentioning the glare, but another metal panel type of material or something like that.
No, just because we were so budget oriented on the project that there are other things that need to be done in the building and some other projects in part of this bond issue, that we're lucky to be able to do what we're doing with this. So no, we did not. Now, I will say that the textural, the additional frame that you're pointing out there, the metal panel also has ribbings that almost create the same vertical lines that you do see here. So if we went with something that was a smooth panel, I think it would look more dissimilar than what we're going back with, which has the intermediate ribs that would be in between the stiffeners.
Or it might improve it.
Pardon?
Or it might improve it, is what I'm saying. It's just that's a pretty major element to that particular building. I don't know if that's a mid-century type of thing, but...
Well, we're leaving the major stiffeners that are 4 foot on center. You're seeing about a 1 foot on center something, okay? Now, that something might stick out an inch of what we're proposing. But in the end, you're actually getting something that does appear. What we're trying to determine is under what basis are we required to bring this back to what it was or not. I don't understand on what basis. The staff has listed significant or historical. And at this point, we don't believe that's so.
Well, and I mean, from my point of view here, I guess there are two different considerations. What's currently existing on the building is not what was original to the building. It was some sort of a retrofit or modification made out of necessity or out of practicality before there was any sort of design review process. So I don't know that matching what's there is necessarily the goal, because it wasn't necessarily what was originally intended for the building. And like Betsy said, and I agree with, this is a fairly major focal point of the building. The second consideration that I would suggest is that with anything that's being done in the Cottage District, the last case in particular, or any other case, the selection of materials, the type of materials used, there's approved materials, there's standards that we have to go by and apply those standards. If this material, and I guess I'll pose this question to the commission, if this material were being proposed for a residential house in the Cottage District, would there be questions or issues?
Can I speak to a few things you
Yes,
said
please.
before I forget all the things you said? The only thing that's been changed here is they've painted over the glass, all right? When the glass was not painted over, you did see additional ribbings going through.
And what were those ribbings?
Just the frame of the glass,
Okay.
the window mullion frames. But so really, it would look more like what was originally there, and that you would see it. The only thing we're trying to agree on, and I don't see that we can, is the only way that if, under the scenario you speak, is that we make it glass. If you want to take it back to an original condition of when it was glass, we cannot do that. So, and we're fine if you all do not approve this, we really don't have an alternative. We're just saying it's the best alternative. Now, I'm still not convinced that under whatever jurisdiction you all have, that we're required to take it back to glass. It's not a historical building. It's not a significant piece of architecture.
Well, I mean, as of yet, I haven't heard anybody even suggest taking it back to glass.
Well,
I mean,
Well, what are our options in your
going back to what
mind?
Betsy was asking about other materials that may have been considered, I know, and I can't recall which exact properties it was that I believe in the past we have objected to this particular type of ribbed panel and opted for more of a standing seam metal panel. Is that something that would be?
That's more costly, but you know, the point is, when we do this, and even though we didn't know to do it based kind of on maybe what you all might thought, and when we went back to look for some kind of guidelines, there's no material guideline. There's nothing. So we're kind of at your all's mercy of what to do. I mean, what the staff has said is that they would like it to be glass at some point, but we cannot do that. So as to other materials, the other options are just going to be more costly, so we're not going to be able to do it.
And I can't really speak to the cost difference between a ribbed metal and a standing seam for this project, so.
Mr. Chairman?
Please.
So I had to step out of the room for a moment. What was the answer by the commission when you asked if this would be suitable if it were on a house?
Well, there was silence, but in the commission's defense, we have 4 brand-new members on here, so they weren't necessarily part of. Do you recall which projects we've had similar materials proposed, and we've pushed for more of a standing seam type?
Well, I mean, I don't know if this is considered architectural metal, Lisa?
That's for the committee to interpret.
Oh, it doesn't, it seems to me, and this is my opinion, of course, that this particular material would be inappropriate for a fence, or for a house, or for this building.
Okay.
And I feel like that there's got to be some alternatives to this.
Well, while you were out, Matt did ask that question, if there were. We're just very budget-minded on this. So really, we can't, we'd love to put the Cadillac in, we can't do it. It's just, we felt that it did keep us, to a person walking by, I don't know that they would really notice the difference. You all could agree or disagree. But my opinion is it's going to look a lot better. It's going to get rid of the maintenance problem. It's going to look more like a sound system up there than what's there now, and I think it would add value to the property. Otherwise, we're going to be in a deteriorating condition as it stands now. Now, in the future, you all could push, the city could push for additional bond money to spend more money, and that's fine. We're not asking you to, we just have a different opinion than you do, and that's all right. If you all deny it, believe me, that's all right. We're doing a lot of good things for the building, and we'll be proud of that. We just feel that the quality would be improved of what you see now. It may not be to exactly what you think it could be, but I do think it is a better improvement to what exists.
Jorge, did you have something you wanted to?
It seems like we have allowed non-standing seam metal panels in residential projects. I don't believe I don't recall seeing this specific profile. But one of the issues I've had in the past is that the way that the language is written, it's not very prescriptive as to what architectural panels are. So it's very, very subjective. And to his point, he's putting in metal panel. There's no way to quantify what it is that the committee's going to find acceptable.
Well, what I would like to propose, and you can take it or leave it, is to give you a month to see if there's anything out there that's affordable but has less of a profile, because that's one of the things about this thing.
When you say less of a profile, you mean that it's not ribbed?
Well, there's all kinds of metal
Yeah, but I'm trying
profiles
to.
out there.
You talked about the texture. So are you saying something?
Yeah, that would be closer to what the glass would appear like.
I don't know of anything that you can get the ribs and the joints and those kind of things, but it's an expensive product. You know what I'm talking about, the aluminum facing panels and those kind of things. But I don't think that I think anything like what we're proposing would be the most economical. And we're just really, when we were doing this, we were budgeting for $2,000 and $3,000 items here and there. And it's just extremely tight. I don't think that we, and Melinda, you can agree, I don't know a product that would satisfy what we're trying to do at this point other than what we're doing.
No, yeah, I have to agree with that. Another thing, too, about this project is that, as we put out to bid, the bid's been awarded. And so we do have a very finite amount of funding available out of this bond issue to address this building and this structure specifically. And some of our biggest concerns were to make sure that the interior of the building, as well as the exterior building, were sound from the weather. We have a lot of problems with that glass leaking, water, especially as we get in Oklahoma. Let's get strong windstorms to bring us some rain, coming in through those broken window panes and coming and leaking down those interior walls, which are causing structural problems in the building. So it's not the best. Yes, if we had a lot larger pool of funding to work with, we obviously would renovate the building 100% to make it really sound and use the best materials we could. But as you know, with GeoBond, sometimes we don't always get that wish, and so we're working with what we've got in our pocket to work with.
I had a point. On the windows, all the vertical lines, that is already metal, but those lower horizontal, the lower quarter, lower third, that's the glass? Is that correct?
The whole area.
The whole area is glass?
Can you zoom in some more, Michael? Without losing quality?
It's kind of grainy, but yeah, it's all glass from the bottom to the top, and then the green, those are wood or metal? They're metal, right, stiffeners.
Just a thought, though, if the intent is to save the building, because the commission deems it salvageable, in a way, waterproofing it, improving the quality of the space within it, while still preserving the capability to go back and retrofit it later, is, in a way, allowing the building to survive a little bit longer.
Well, if you've lived around here, and you've been around for a while, George, but if you've lived around here for a while, you know that building has been like, it has not had any improvement, and I applaud you for trying to improve it. I just feel like it sends out a bad message for the city to provide a panel on this building that we would not allow on a house that would be right next door. I just feel like that's just my opinion, but it's a strong one.
So if they came in with a panel that had been recently approved, would that be okay, or is it just the metal panel that you have?
No, I mean, there are metal panels that have profiles that would be more in keeping with whatever. I mean, I'm not really greatly fond of this building or anything like that. It's just that putting this particular profile, which I have seen over the years, and I just feel like that's setting a bad precedent on the city's part. And I don't, somebody could come in with a great house design, and that would, maybe include that somehow. I'm not sure how that would still work.
But it typically wouldn't be as dominant of, I mean, this is a fairly dominant feature of this building. Now, I'll say that from my point of view, I applaud what y'all are doing. I recognize that you're trying to address a lot of issues here with a very small budget, and I know how difficult that is. One of those issues seems to be an original design. It might not have been the absolute best for the utility of the building in the first place. I guess my goal here would be to have some end product there that looks like it at least may have been part of the original design of the building, whereas to me this particular metal panel reads like it was retrofitted to address a bad original design. Does that make sense?
I think so.
I have a question. I don't mean to interrupt.
Please.
You said you'd been working with Brian Fitzsimmons on this, and I'm also on the Midtown board, so I've been getting updates. Was this metal panel presented to Brian or Mickey or any of the people that you've been working with?
Let me speak a little bit about that. When Brian presented this, as my first point was that they were wanting to tear down the building. Doug Kepler said, no, it's a resource we need for the parks. Everybody understood that. Brian, our original design that we had communicated to Brian did not even look like this, all right? Our original design, we had ephes. Y'all just talked about ephes and joints and those kind of things. And we had that over the building with some kind of patterns and those kind of things. Well, Brian also had a second proposal, and it showed replacing the glass up top. And he was using kind of a reflective silver kind of glass with aluminum frames. He was putting a new entry on with aluminum and trying to make it look more modern, make it look more up to date. We saw that and we said, we think that's a better, and I haven't even told Brian this, that this is probably a better way to go. Let's try to keep more of the look. Let's do what we can, and that's how we came up with the panel. We picked the light gray to reflect the aluminum. So Brian had an impact, although he didn't know he had an impact. Midtown Association had an impact, and we thought in the future, when they come back and do some of these other retrofits, this will blend in nicely. And that was the approach, and that's kind of the storyline of how we got to where we are today.
And let me ask you, you mentioned it's bond financing and the project's been awarded. Is there any sort of timeline where those funds have to be spent or things have to move forward?
Yes, with any of the bond issues, we have so many years to get those bond funds expended, and then with having the bond awarded now, then the clock starts ticking for the construction company to begin their work and then to complete their work. Also, because Municipal Gym is one of our most popular facilities we have in the city parks complex, that gym is used so often and so regularly that we've moved or actually suspended some of our adult basketball league programming to other sites or just suspended the schedule until this gym is completed. So with our schedule and our recreation programs, we have about 4 months or a little less than 4 months to get it all finished and completed so we can be back up and rolling again for our basketball season. It's so heavily used. It's a great gym, and it has great potential to be used even further with the enhancements we're doing at the interior, which is also why we're hoping to preserve as much of the interior as we can to make it weatherproof.
So one of the fortunate things about this particular aspect of the project is it's outside the gym. You could complete the inside materials and resume your use of the building
I'm assuming
while
we
this is
can.
being resolved.
Yeah. I'm assuming we certainly can, as long as our contractor's okay with that, because this bid is one lump project. So as we know, we have to kind of come back and do some fancy footwork with that. But
What about cleaning and sealing the existing glass?
well, a lot of the glass panels are actually broken, and so the glass that is there is either broken, split, or cracked. And so over time, maintenance dollars, deferred maintenance and other issues, they've come back and sealed some of those cracks, but some of them are spidered, some of them have different webbing through those windows. So even though they were sealed, we still have issues where even the seals along the window framings have been broken, so we get water leakage down the interior walls of the building. So the interior will have the new wall put inside the interior of the gym so that the glare is taken care of. However, we're still going to get water invasion from those broken window panes. And to replace the windows was cost prohibitive.
I wanted to add another comment. If you will go on 7th Street, go 1 block east of the gym, on both the north and south sides of the street, you'll find houses that have been recently approved that have a variety of metal panels. And several of them, in my mind, I call them like barn metal. I'm not particularly crazy about it, but it has been approved at several houses, and I know it's very economical. Yes, and then there's another one that's pretty close to what you have, but it doesn't maybe have quite as many different articulations on it. So
one thing about the articulations, if you look at the windows, you'll see that the dark green prime, the rib that's going through the stiffener, thank you, I'm not an architect, it's a stiffener, and then between those stiffeners, you'll see where the window has that textural vertical element, and that's why we felt that this metal panel would still provide that vertical, those small ribs between the stiffeners.
You mentioned EIFS panels. Is that something that was considered, or would that be an option instead of the ribbed metal?
Well, we thought that and believe that to be even a more significant change. And you haven't seen what we came up with, but as to how that appeared, it really did not have the same character.
I'm trying to think of, like, from their side, just what's been said, like, how, like, this, I'm near this panel, by the way, so I'm just kind of asking everyone, but we have this panel here, this one's not one that they recommend, and it's kind of still, it looks like it's kind of like a warehouse, but how could we speed it up for them to maybe give a panel that's been already approved, so they can either continue it today, or I'm not sure how that process can move forward, but like, it seems like an easy fix. If a metal panel is a solution for this, it seems like, how can we simplify it so it can move, you know what I'm saying, kind of?
You're saying if a precedent's been set already, that's been approved, is there a material that you all would go with that we could consider?
Correct.
And you all would need to tell us what that panel is. We could run the numbers.
Well, before we go there, we really look at these projects case by case. And we wouldn't put brick on that surface, obviously. That's been approved. But, what I think we could do to make this work is approve the other items on this list, have you guys come back in a month and have done some additional research and come up with another idea other than this panel.
Would that be something that would be workable for y'all?
Well, I think we're still under a budget constraint. And that's the whole that's why our hands are tied. There's probably something more suitable, something you would like, but it's just going to cost more money. We want to do the other things in the building that are also are necessary that generate revenue. This is a maintenance issue, so it's.
So would there really be no other options?
We would have to eliminate something in the building, and we've already been through that process of we had a long list, and then we cut back, and we cut back, and we cut back. So we've really hit our head against the wall on the budget. So this is the most economical thing in it.
How's this compare to an EFS application in this, cost-wise, yeah?
This is less expensive than the EFS because you don't with the EFS we would have to take out some of the frame that's there. We'd have to put up new stud walls, new framing, new wrap on the building. This is just a very economical solution. So,
if I could,
yeah, please.
I'm still kind of one step back. I've been by this building. I don't live in the area, so I'm asking the people that do, is this building of significant local interest or significant artistic merit? Because if it doesn't, it would sway where we go with this.
I, having been on the Midtown Board, being involved in the revitalization of this, the building, I don't think historically is important as much as it is just having the building there. There were comments that the thought was to tear it down. We talked about that, but nobody at the meetings I was at was much in favor of that. What we wanted to do was remove the parking lot, which has already been approved. So to me, it is not historically important. I know that survey that was cited, there are other problems with that. For example, there's a house next door to me that is a Habitat for Humanity house built 10 years ago, and it was identified as an important historical resource. So I would not step back and say this needs to be totally restored to how it was. But the restoration of it, be it we put panels on it or EFS or something, that is important to the neighborhood and the Midtown Board. But bringing it back to as it was when it was built, in my opinion, and the meetings I've been to, is not important.
And I would agree with that. I would say it might not be historically significant, but in terms of just the footprint in a neighborhood, it is pretty significant. Is there any movement or willingness to do a continuance? Is there any?
Well, I don't think we have any options, as I've said, to come back to you with. So I think either you approve us or you deny us. And, in the future, maybe they come up with more bond money, maybe they don't. But at this point, we really cannot do anything. Would you agree?
And one of the things that, like I said before, one of our biggest hindrances to our schedule is because of our basketball league season. The gym floor is so regularly used. We were having a struggle getting the 4-month window just to squeeze in the construction that we need to have done inside the building. So when we get to that end of that 4-month period, the clock started ticking 15th of March. That's when our clock started ticking. So we have a very finite amount of time to get in and get a lot of the major renovations that need to happen in the building done.
Have those interior renovations begun?
Not started yet. We needed to have this meeting today to kind of be able to,
Okay, so
for our contract
interiors
to
being
get-
held up by exterior, and I guess I go back to what Betsy was saying, it doesn't seem like this should hold up the interior, but maybe there's something I'm missing.
well, to get our permit issued to do the
Okay.
building is our next step.
She did reference that there were some broken pieces of glass, so at a minimum, you'd have to go back and fix those.
Okay, so does anyone have a motion to suggest or more comments where, from what I'm hearing, where basically continuance is not something that you feel would be beneficial?
Yes, we could go back and look. I mean, I think we could. I'm just afraid that we're not going to be able to come back with any better answer or product and then still have our time frame, because this was the least expensive product we could come up with that still gave us some of the architectural and detailing of the building that we could afford to put into our project budget and still get it executed.
Can we get pads in the building as an add-on? Those are like $1,000, $2,000. That's how tight
It's very tough.
this budget is. It's not
crazy.
Yeah.
You know, we're talking pennies. So, you know, they need the protection pads, they need things like that. But, that's just where we're at.
So, Bob, what if you just went back and repaired the windows and added spandrel glass where you have broken glass and sealed it and...
I think it looked disjointed and,
It would look like it does now. It would look like it does now. And that's part of our hope, to make it look cleaner.
they put in some FRP panels, they tried different things, it's still not working.
Yeah.
The frames are
Some are rotted, some are broken, some... It's just, and part of our problem is that, you know, the Parks Department had 20 years of no geobond issues, so we have a lot of deferred maintenance that was never kept up with. And so we are now behind that 8 ball trying to address each of our facilities to bring them out of the dark ages and to get them back in reparable condition where they are not deteriorating on their own anymore, at least to stop the exterior leaks from the windows and things. So we're trying to hold it together, and it may not be the absolute best solution, I agree, but it's what we can do today to stop the leaking, keep the interior and the overall condition of the building whole, and then as we get other bonds, hopefully our voters will approve other bonds in the future. We can come back and address these facilities.
Can you talk a little bit about another aspect of this? And I'm not necessarily switching off of the ribbed metal, but you're adding 2 windows, correct? 2 windows that aren't. Can you talk a little bit about that part of it?
Can we talk about this?
And about how that impacts on the budget also?
Yeah, here's I don't know if we included a floor plan. Is there one? If we can go to the floor plan. Yeah, an interior floor plan. Going, there you go. Okay. If you look, you see the gymnasium, which is the major part of the building, and over there on the left side is what's called a weight room. There's an office to the north of that, and there's a small storage space there. That room's only about 11 feet wide or something. It feels people do not like to be in there. One, it feels very confining. So the windows, they thought, would give it some natural daylight, just make it feel better to how the room was used.
And it's used as an office?
Well, excuse me, as a weight room.
Okay.
There is an office on one end, and we're taking in the storage room, expanding it. We're also putting the windows in at both ends just so the space feels larger. It has very low ceilings. There's not much we can do with that. We are taking out a old mechanical fur down. That's not a lot of money to do it, but it will increase the perception of space. So that's why the windows were important to do that. Right now they feel like they're just rats in a tunnel in a sense when they're trying to work out. And that was the reason for that.
Okay. My main reason for asking is...
Yeah, see if there was any money available.
Yeah, I mean, it just seems like we're kind of between a rock and a hard place here.
And that's not that expensive to cut the window.
I think it was $2,000 for both windows.
Yeah, but it wasn't that expensive. But you bring up a good point. And again, we've gone through this list a couple of times. We've actually redrawn the building a lot just to keep getting it in budget. And this is where we're at.
Yeah. And, I mean, speaking just for myself, you know, like I said, I kind of feel like we're between a rock and a hard place. I'm not a big fan of the ribbed metal. I also somewhat agree with Betsy that that this building has been in this condition for a long period of time. I feel like whatever we do right now, there's probably a good chance that it's going to stay for a significant period of time. So I'd rather not look at this as a very short temporary fix that's going to go back and be addressed, because that may or may not ever happen. That being said, I mean, the building needs to be sealed up and weatherproofed, obviously.
Just another question for the neighbors. Is the painted glass better or worse than the metal panel? Because, I mean, it seems like there's just a finite amount of money right now.
Yeah, in my opinion, it's worse. I mean, I very much appreciate the wanting to have the higher quality metals, and it sounded like there may have been some willingness to look at the continuance. Initially, there was comments that you didn't think it could happen, but then it seemed like there was...
I think we'd just be postponing a decision that we wouldn't be able to improve upon with what we're submitting to. And that's just where we're at.
Well, if we came back in a month and you said, we looked at the other metal in the neighborhood and it's completely out of budget, then we have our question answered and we could make a decision.
But I guess that wouldn't really be our determination. We've told you all we know about the budget, about the material, about the upgrade in the material, and we just can't go on the upgrade, all right? So, I mean, we've told you everything that we know of where we stand, what we can do.
And one more thing to consider about that, too, is that if we look at all the other options, and we can bring back options, but we also have to have our contractor then rebid the project. So the project, as the holistic GeoBond, the bid has been approved. We're all at that last phase, so we would have to actually cancel the bids, put it back out for bid. And that is a very big, long process.
Okay,
That's what
maybe I
contractors
don't
do.
understand how the city does bids, but generally we have options to talk, especially since you have a contractor on board, and to sit down and talk to the contractor and say, gosh, these silly people around this horseshoe are saying that they don't like this metal panel. Can you give us some options? And I guarantee you those contractors will come up
They
with
will,
options.
and they'll come up with options, and they can give us those prices back. But it's just because it's GeoBond, we have to make sure that we're not then in confliction with the other contractors who bid on the project, who could possibly come back and say, because all the bids were very close, and so those other competitive bids could not come back and say, well, we could have come under that. There could be a conflict, and that's where we're just making sure that we're following every letter of the law when it comes to our bond process.
Well, we do feel that this is the most economical solution. So, again, we don't have a way to do anything less than what is being needed in the building, much less having this. I still believe, just my opinion, is that this is going to look nice. It's going to look a lot cleaner. It's going to look a lot better. It's going to look like, hey, they got rid of all that broken stuff. That looks nice. It's maintained. Metal panels have become an architectural feature of buildings. In the past, it was the corrugated metal that was so objected to. Well, even now, that is being used and accepted all across the country. So it's in the panel we're using, in our mind, is an upgrade from that. We could have reduced to that. So I would just speak and say, I think it's going to give you a good look. I think you're going to think it looks durable. People are going to appreciate it. It's going to add to the value. I don't think we can be that critical of the panel itself because it does look like a system, and it will improve, what's out there. And it is a more acceptable architectural element and ingredient used these days. People accept it more and like it and find it energetic, and that it does have an appeal.
So Bob, your elevations that were in our packet don't show any vertical.
Yeah, we did resubmit that. Mike last week resubmitted.
One of the things, frankly, one of the things I'm concerned about is that you're putting a metal panel on the frame that is the frame for the glazing, the original frame. I'm afraid you're not going to stop the leaking. I don't.
Stop the leaking because it's coming in through the broken glass. This will be covering the seal.
How much of the glass is broken?
I haven't done an actual physical count of every pane that's broken, but I would say there's probably 30% of the windows that need to be, that are either not original glass to pieces that are cracked and broken, ash, FRP panels, thank you. I'd say minimum of that amount. Off the top of my head, just observing one side of the building, I'd say probably about that.
Okay. I'm going to make a motion.
Please do.
We can vote this down if you don't like it. I would move to deny the covering of the existing clear story window glass with the ribbed metal panel, but approve the install the new windows on the building. And I don't even think we have to vote on the paint, because you can paint, if it's a painted surface, you can paint it. Okay.
So let me understand that motion.
Okay. So I will.
I've asked her to break the motion up to make it more clear.
Okay. I'm going to move to approve item 1B, C, and landscaping item A. That's one motion.
Second.
Did I have a second?
Yeah.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so that first motion passes, and I believe you had more?
Okay. I'm not done yet. My second motion is to deny item 1A, covering the existing clear story windows with metal panels.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
Yeah, let's do a show of hands, please. All in favor? So we have 3 in favor, all opposed. We have 4 opposed, so that motion fails. Okay, so we're part of the way there. I would have voted with the opposed. So, and the main reason I'm voted with the opposed is I'm not a fan of this look, but I don't know what the alternatives are. If there really is no additional budget, then what does that leave us with?
I'd like to make a motion to... Are we
Please.
ready? I'd like to make a motion to approve then, as submitted due to staff recommendation, that the project meets the regulations and guidelines of the Downtown Design District as referenced in section C and D of the staff.
All right, I have a motion to approve item 1A, is that correct?
Oh, that's right, because we already approved the other one. Yeah, that's right.
Yes.
Do I have a second?
Second?
Second. So we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Let's do a show of hands again, please. So we have 4. All opposed? No, that carries. Betsy, I assume Betsy would be opposed, but she's outvoted anyway. So both different motions pass, which means that all of the items up for consideration, if I'm not mistaken, are approved.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for listening to us and considering.
All right, thank you. May I ask a question just for my understanding of the process? In terms of putting these out to bid and doing your budgets and costs and things like that, it seems to me that the clock has already started ticking on the construction, and we're just now coming to the decision-making process for this commission. Is there a necessity for us to be so late in the process because of the bid process, or could this have been easier if we were earlier?
Here's kind of the way they have us do a preliminary design, and then you do a preliminary budget. Then this wasn't just one project. This was 4 different bonds. Yeah, four different sites. So you're trying to get your hands around a lot of maintenance issues and risk things. And as the drawings get developed, we kept going back to the estimator saying, here's a more refined set of drawings, and he would reprice it. Once we got to the point of what Parks could budget and what could be agreed upon, the drawings were virtually finished because the budget was so tight, they needed to know exactly what was in the drawings. That's why we couldn't approach this more on a preliminary basis, because we didn't have a budget set and we didn't have a scope of work set at the time. Normally, you would be able to do that, but theirs is, over my 20 years, probably the tightest budget we've ever had to work with.
And from my point of view, it kind of feels like we were up against not only the budget constraints here, which are understandable, but also some time and process constraints where you would have had to put things out to rebid. If there is a way to alleviate some of that, I think it would be beneficial to everybody. Next time I'm talking.
Yeah, one thing, had we really known that this was needing your approval, then we would have probably hit that harder and tried to work through those issues, just so we wouldn't be backed into, or you all backed into a corner as well on the time in making the decision. But as
we missed that it was in
yeah, and part of that, truly, if we were presented by the Midtown people that there was a possibility of tearing it down, so we didn't think there was any jurisdiction that would govern us in any sense of historical or an urban committee or something that would have an oversight. So
okay.
all that just kind of created that perfect storm, if you would.
Okay, well, and thank you for the patience today, and good luck with the project.
Thank you.
All right, moving on with our agenda. That's it for the items for individual consideration. Other business, we have done some of, or we have done all of the other business. Am I correct? Communications, Michael?
Just 3 cases to report that we've approved in the last month administratively for projects that you guys have seen before.
All right. Any questions on any of those? All right. Our next meeting is, what date? April 27th, and I believe we need to, anybody who's parking in the garage needs to get tickets today for that, just reminding everybody.
And there's some maps of the Arts Festival street closures. If you don't have one, I'm going to pass this around, take it, and make sure you allow yourself, I was going to say some extra time, maybe quite a bit of extra time in April to get here.
And with that, is there anything else?
Just one more thing. There's a note in your agenda that the planning department is kicking off the city's, the first citywide historic preservation plan. There are, at a minimum, we would ask that you take the online survey. It's trying to, well, just some of the discussion today to learn more about residents' opinions on what historic means to them. There's also a public meeting on April 5th. We'd be happy for anybody to participate.
And that survey is something we proactively have to go to the site for.
Yeah,
correct?
there's not going to be an email blast. It's a please go and take it.
Okay, with that, unless anybody has anything else, we are adjourned.